And to our special meeting, our city council meeting on Tuesday, November 12th. For public participation, there are 3 ways to submit public comments. 1, submit written comments by the meeting day. 2, submit written comments during the meeting. And 3, attend the meeting in person. To submit written comments by the meeting day, please email cityclerk@dalycity.org and include public comment in the subject line. All written comments received by 4 p.m. on the meeting day will be provided to the city council prior to the meeting. Please note any emailed comments received after 4 p.m. on the meeting date are not guaranteed to be received by the Daly City Council prior to the meeting. Comments are not read aloud into the record. 2, during the meeting, you may visit www.dalycity.org/agendas to submit comments using the public comment form to address the city council on a specific item, or during public comment periods such as comments that are delivered to the city council and staff during the meeting and may be read into the record at the time they are received. And 3, to speak at the meeting in person, please complete a speaker card located at the entrance of the council chamber and submit it to staff members early in the meeting as possible. May we all rise for the pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam City Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Ms. DiGiovanni,
Present.
Dr. Rod,
Present.
Ms. Perano,
Present.
Mr. Sylvester,
Glenn Sylvester, present.
Ms. Manalo.
Present, thank you very much. First on our presentations for item number 1, I itemized this proclamation in honor of our Daly City Police Department. But there was a tragic loss in our community. A community member, Rolando Yanga, and I know that it was really through the Daly City Police Department. They swiftly got the suspects within 18 hours through technology and exemplary investigative skills. And so we do have a formal proclamation for the Daly City Police Department. It's the Daly City Police Department Appreciation Day. I also want to acknowledge that we do have Rolando Yanga's family here in the audience that wanted to be present when this honor was given to our Daly City Police Department. Proclamation, Daly City Police Department Appreciation Day. Whereas on September 29, 2024, the city of Daly City tragically lost a longtime resident, Rolando Yanga, to a senseless act of violence in broad daylight. And whereas members of the Daly City Police Department utilize industry-leading technology and investigative techniques to identify the suspects. And whereas the Daly City Police Department Patrol Division, Detective Division, Covert Surveillance Unit, SWAT Team, and support personnel work diligently through the night and subsequent day to locate and track the suspects as they move throughout the Bay Area. And whereas those members of the police department were able to apprehend both suspects with professionalism and with the community's safety in mind, considering the suspects were contacted in a moving vehicle in a densely populated area. And whereas those members of the police department are commended for their commitment and determination in prioritizing this investigation, successfully bringing a small portion of closure to the Yanga family in less than 24 hours. And whereas the city of Daly City recognizes the Daly City Police Department for their exemplary service in solving Daly City's first homicide case in 2024 and for countless other cases tended with care and compassion for our community. Now, therefore, I, Jocelyn C. Manalo, Mayor, and members of the City Council of Daly City do hereby proclaim November 12th as Daly City Police Department Appreciation Day in Daly City and commend their exceptional leadership, integrity, and commitment to keep our community safe. I'd also like to ask the family if they'd like to come.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Teresa Yanga. I am the widow of Rolando Yanga. I'm here with two of my children, who we unfortunately witnessed the tragic loss of our dear husband, father, and grandfather. I specifically requested from Mayor Manala to acknowledge the Daly City Police Department for their hard work in solving the case of my husband's killing in such a quick and expeditious manner. I really wanted to personally acknowledge Detective Renninger, Detective Reyes, Sergeant Poti, and the technician Trent, who was able to identify the car within such a quick time and be able to bring the suspects into custody, hopefully without incident, so that we can get a little piece of justice for my husband's tragic loss. Unfortunately, we still have to go through the court system, but at least we have a suspect in custody, as well as two suspects in custody, to bring some closure to my husband's death. So I want to again thank you, the Daly City Police Department, for their excellent work. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I wrote a few words. Some of it's going to reflect what was written in the proclamation, but some things that I think they're important to speak to. I'd like to start by expressing my heartfelt condolences to the Yanga family. This callous and tragic event took the life of a cherished community member and cut short the love and life Mr. Yanga shared with his family and friends. Unfortunately, while the police department could not prevent what occurred, I stand here proud of how my team responded, both in locating and apprehending the suspects in less than 24 hours, and, just as importantly, for the compassion and the support my staff provided the family during their shock and grief. As mentioned, this incident took place on September 29th shortly after 7 p.m. on the 1300 block of South Mayfair. Mr. Yanga was followed home by the suspects in this case and was senselessly shot multiple times. The initial responding patrol officers quickly contained the scene and immediately began working to obtain information about those responsible. Among the first responders was a police officer with proven military combat medical experience and our Daly City Fire Department partners, who provided immediate and advanced life-saving efforts. Despite these efforts, Mr. Yanga succumbed to his injuries. This evening, I'm joined, if you guys can kind of come up here, if you're somewhere close, but by Captain Mike Brennan, who oversees our patrol bureau. Come up a little closer, guys. Captain Ignacio Reyes, who oversees our support services bureau. Investigations Division Commander Lieutenant Harold Rolfus. Our Detective Sergeant Asako Poti. The lead detective in the investigation, Detective William Rayner. And the co-lead as well, Detective Lorena Reyes. Our investigations division, including detectives, our covert surveillance unit, our SWAT team, and other administrative support staff, as was mentioned, is not present tonight, is Administrative Assistant Trent Waterman, who was one of the supportive staff that identified the vehicle that evening. We're all activated to start the investigative process. I want to thank you personally, Mayor Manalo and Council, for your continued support of the police department's commitment to investigating and investing in the latest technology. I recognize there are financial challenges associated with this, but it has proven to be crucial in keeping our community safe. The success in solving this homicide was largely due to the new technology that we've employed this last year, specifically our automated license plate reader system from Flock. Once identified, our investigators were able to track the vehicle safely out of our city. Over the next 18 hours, however, the investigations division used various technologies and strategies to confirm the suspects' identities, secure methods of tracking, and deploy field resources, ultimately leading to the arrest of both. Coordinated efforts of nearly half the department employing advanced investigative strategies and that cutting-edge technology closed this case with a speed that would have been unthinkable in years past. Given the occurrence and the circumstances, many of our investigators were on duty actively investigating this case for over 36 hours straight. Their dedication stemmed from a profound commitment to supporting the family and delivering justice for the Yonga family and Mr. Yonga and upholding the high standards of the Daly City Police Department. As mentioned, we did everything we could to support the family in their time of shock and loss. We had some of our peer support members of officers that are experienced with tragic loss present with the family. We were also able to arrange for a police chaplain to comfort grieving family members. We will also maintain family liaisons with the family throughout the what is lengthy judicial process. Again, my deepest condolences to the Yonga family. I also extend my gratitude to you, Mayor, and the Council for supporting the police department and providing us with the resources that we need to be successful. And lastly, my heartfelt thanks goes out to my staff for their exceptional work. They dedicate themselves every day to serving and protecting our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for all that you do for our Daly City police officers, and we have our continued prayers and support for the Yonga family continuously. We just know as a Daly City family and community here how important it is our public service officers and our police officers are, and it just showed your compassion and your dedication to serve our community with excellence and during a tragic time. And so thank you to each and every one of you for your work. We are so grateful and blessed to have you all here with us in Daly City. And know that you will always have continued support to ensure that you all have what it needs to do your work here in our community to keep our community safe. So thank you so much. And to the family, we are continuously, we'll be here for you all. And thank you for being here this evening and being with us to honor our police officers. Thank you so much.
Let's make a comment, if I may.
Councilmember Sylvester.
Chief, if you can come back up. I feel obligated to make a comment because I know what police officers go through, being that I am a former police officer. Chief, you said something which is exactly on point. You said the solving of this crime is unthinkable in years past. You are absolutely correct. To apprehend a suspect in a short amount of time, Daly City has basically, we've been on the map, but you've even put us on a higher pedestal for other law enforcement agencies to know. Number two, I moved to Daly City in 1988, but I was still working in San Francisco. And I know that every time I cross that borderline from San Francisco to Daly City, you don't fool around, because Daly City is different. And for the public, we pride ourselves in having great public safety to include police and fire. And until this very day, it was only about 2 years ago, I'm driving down the street and the Daly City officer stopped me. And I don't need any additional acknowledgement or anything like that, but he recognized me, and I says, what's going on, officer? He says, I just wanted to advise you to put your seatbelt on. I mean, and you know, other folks would really say, well, you know, it's harassment, it's a sort of harassment. But you know, in police work, they wield a lot of power and authority. And in Daly City, I see that we live by the spirit of the law and not by the letter of the law. As for the family, I've read about it, and it was horrific. And my condolences for the family as well. I remember a few years back, Chief, you brought to us the use, and while you were speaking, you said it. And as soon as I heard technology, I thought of ALPR. And this is a classic example of the use of technology, automated license plate reader. I mean, in my experience, we'd have to print up a stolen vehicle sheet, and as you drive down the street, you would look at the last three letters of the license plate and go to the column of your sheet. Nope, that's clear. Nope, that's clear. But wait, with ALPR, you don't have to look at the hot sheet. You don't have to print one. You just drive. And it's capturing basically stolen vehicles, and that's what we're looking for. But in this particular case, the investigative unit, well, wait a minute, this is a suspect vehicle. How can we find this vehicle? So I'd like to thank the council for approving the use of technology. Chief, I'd like to thank you for bringing this to our attention. And, you know, what price do you put on safety and security? It is better to have and not need than to need it and not have it. Your surveillance after identification, that has to be considered when you take a suspect into custody, because you don't want to exacerbate the situation, especially with next door neighbors and et cetera. So kudos to you folks on that. But definitely this is unheard of, especially in my experience. And again, thank you so much to the Daly City Police Department, our first responders, fire as well, and all those who assisted. And, you know, I know, and to go on and say, we have to solve this. And your officers will continue to work until it's done. And that's what Daly City is all about. So thank you again, Chief. Thank you to the Daly City Police Department. Job well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Sylvester. I also want to share with the public that there will be letters of commendation sent to those that are involved to thank them personally and also have that for their personnel files. So thank you so much for the amazing work. Councilmember DiGiovanni?
Vice Mayor, would you like to go first?
Yes, I just want to say thank you for Daly City Police Department for your swift and prompt services and working around the clock, and also providing the wraparound services that the family needs. Condolences to the Yanga family. When I first heard about this was on social media, and I was shocked. And the reason why I was shocked because Ate Teresa, your other son, is my student, and I've grown really close to both him and his partner over the past couple of years, and I could not believe that this happened. And I'm just thank God that, you know, we have police services that was able to, I don't want to repeat everything everybody else said, but being able to do what y'all need to do and to have all the resources that y'all need to do to get the job done. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember DiGiovanni?
Thank you. Well, I think the mayor and everyone else still agrees that This police department is bar none. You know, we know that Daly City is family and we're different here, right? We're all family. And so it proves that this department and the tone of this chief sets and how you guys work together is bar none. And that when he says 36 hours, I believe it. I know that you guys went nonstop for this family. And you did it, sure, as a professional, because you knew that was a family. It affected a family. And I think they know that. And that's why they're here tonight. Not because so many stories about your loved one have come to me from the Lolos and the Lolas that he touched. So many. And that they themselves are reaching out to their OLM partners or their OLPH partners and praying, sending many prayers, many prayers. Also, I remember the St. Francis prayer by Corleone. But I know that you are in a circle of love and prayer, even though we can't bring him back for you, but you are surrounded and know that the prayers are continuous from this community. You may not see their faces, but these Lolas and Lolas, they love him. And that man gave everything, so much kindness. And your whole family's that way anyway. And then you have a loved one that's also law enforcement and commendable and so much love. So like he said, they're here for you. They're not going to leave you. And that, love is eternal and nothing can bring you back but the grieving. But we're here and we're all family. So, and each time you see them, call them, contact them. They're going to be there for you. I know that. You already know that. So that's a blessing. They just don't do their case and leave it and go on. Because sometimes in other departments, they have to, they're forced to in other cities. But here, they're here 24 hours a day. And the chief, he makes sure that connectivity is there. Because that's who they are. That's why they chose to serve Daly City. And I am proud of that. They could go to any other city, but they chose here to wear their uniform here. And we're proud of them. And much love and prayers to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. Thank you very much. Now moving on to our next item on our agenda. We're moving on to our approval of our minutes. The regular meeting of October 28th, 2024. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes?
I have a first. Do I have a second?
Glenn Sylvester, second.
Thank you very much. May we have roll call, please?
Ms. DiGiovanni,
Aye.
Dr. Rod,
Aye.
Ms. Perano,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester,
Glenn Sylvester, aye.
Ms. Manalo.
Aye. Thank you very much. Moving on to the approval of the agenda for the special meeting of November 12th, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Glenn Sylvester, motion.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. I have a first and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you very much. Moving on to public appearances and oral communications. Calling up Mr. Brent Turner.
Hello, council members. My name is Brent Turner. I want to just acknowledge under this circumstance that I didn't anticipate the family and of course your police department here for their great service. I want to congratulate the folks that were reelected and also mention that apparently democracy is working well in Daly City, and I appreciate all your efforts. I also just wanted to mention the events that you've been putting on for the community seem to be very well received, and in speaking further with some of the business people, encouraged to keep going in that direction. The Italian consul flag raising event was particularly great, and I think everybody was there to celebrate that. Of course, there was some issue there that I don't think it's appropriate to discuss in this moment, but needless to say, we need to make sure that the city is represented well and not, we want to make sure we're sensitive when the consul general shows up, that there's great respect there. So I just want to thank everybody for your time tonight, and I'll talk to you again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think these two items are, okay, let's see, we have also Dr. Spira for public comment. Please, thank you.
Honorable Mayor, Honorable Council, hi. I'm Dr. Alan Spira. I was an emergency physician at Seton Hospital for 3 years. I know I only have 2 minutes and I have no prepared statement. But I want to make a comment about how the hospital has done a poor service for the community. It's done an unethical and immoral service to the citizens of Daly City, particularly NES, which had the contract for the emergency department for the last 2 years. I and 4 core physicians, we were the center physicians, full-time physicians, left the emergency department when we were put in an untenable, unethical situation where we were forced to choose between our emergency department patients and the ICU patients against our contract. We left the emergency department as a group, and we were not paid for our back pay. They hired per diems, and they ran the emergency department with non-certified people. They are not paying people now, and in fact, this group, NES, is now being sued by emergency department physicians in Texas, New Mexico, and they're not paying in Pennsylvania, and they're about to be sued there. They're about to go into bankruptcy, from what I understand. Not paying physicians in this state, I understand, is wage theft, which I think is a felony, if I'm not mistaken. And I just want to make sure that Daly City does not let these people go, because this is a criminal treatment of not just the staff of the people who take care of the citizens of Daly City, but the citizens themselves suffer as a result. There's so much more to say, but there's not enough time. I just wanted to make you aware from the emergency department's point of view. Quite honestly, the community was stiffed, treated poorly, and I understand from the buzzer I have to end. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you. I believe that's the end of public comment. Will now move on to approving our consent agenda. I move to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Actually, roll call, please. I have it for a speak on item number 12.
Yeah, and I also marked off public comment.
Oh, please come up, Mr. Quinn. Please come up. And happy Veterans Day that just passed.
Thank you. Hello, friends and council members. Congratulations on your election. And I would like to ask once again that the phones be turned back on so the public can call in with important questions. And also the volume on channel 26, I don't know if it's been the public or community channel, I don't know if it's working now. It should be fixed because older folks can't access YouTube and all that stuff. They don't have the ability. So a lot of people are getting locked out. And also I'd like to know, Dr. Rod, you had mentioned you were going to do a statement after all the investigations were done by the police department and the district attorney with what happened between the council members, and you never made a statement. So I don't know what came out of those hearings, and we'd like to know. And congratulations to the police department. They're great guys. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. Earlier, we had a first and second. And so with that, may we have roll call, please? Madam City Clerk.
Ms. DiGiovanni,
Aye.
Dr. Rod,
Aye.
Ms. Perano,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester,
Glenn Sylvester, aye.
Ms. Manalo.
Aye, thank you very much. We are now moving into our public hearings. Item number 12, General Plan Amendment GPA-8-24-16606 and Zone Change ZC-8-24-16607, a revised draft on the housing element adoption and initial implementation measures. We have staff, Mr. Van Lickhausen.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. This was a continued item from October 28th. At that time, the City Council continued the hearing regarding the city's housing element to allow for time for AHMC, the owners of the Seton Hospital property and some of the surrounding properties that are proposed for rezoning under the city's housing element implementation process to speak to the City Council. These individuals are present tonight, and they have a prepared presentation for you, and we can go ahead and move on with that. One of the, in fact, the only thing that's different from the last time that the staff gave a presentation is that given the schedule that we're up against to have a certified housing element not only adopted but accepted by the State Department of Housing and Community Development by the end of the year, we are requesting, at least on the ordinances, an urgency vote, an urgency ordinance that's included in the council packet. These urgency ordinances, there are several of them, and they pertain to the rezonings, require a 4/5 vote of the City Council. So just to remind you of that, the housing element itself is adopted by resolution. The environmental review is adopted by resolution. That is not an urgency item and requires a 3/5 vote for adoption of that resolution. So with that, if there's any questions the City Council has of the staff, we're, of course, happy to answer those, or we can go ahead with the AHMC presentation.
Thank you so much. I think let's proceed with the presentation. I know that there was extensive review as far as our last meeting, and we did continue on with the overall presentation of the housing element.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you, Mayor Manalo and Council. It's a pleasure to be here tonight, and actually, I'm very touched by the community presentation to the law enforcement officials. It shows what a great family that you all are and the city of Daly City is. So thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. My name is David Batista. I'm the Executive Vice President for AHMC Healthcare, and very happy to be here with you tonight. Just a quick presentation from us and from AGI. Next slide, please. Some of you may know this already. This may be recall for you all, but AHMC Healthcare, we actually span in 4 different counties, including here in San Mateo County. We are led by experienced professionals, 8 healthcare facilities, acute care facilities, including extended care facilities in the city of San Gabriel, long-term care facility that includes skilled nursing facility, memory care, and assisted living. We are the 4th largest provider of health system in Southern California. I myself am a Northern California person, spending most of my formidable years in Morgan Hill. This community matters to me, as well as any community we serve. My family, again, is actually, I have a nephew in Pacifica, very close to our Coast Site facility. His wife is a nurse at Stanford. So all of the facilities matter, but tonight, none more than Seton Medical Center. Next slide, please. These are some of the awards. Our facilities, like major large organizations that I've worked for, Tenet Healthcare, publicly traded healthcare facilities. I chose not to work at companies like that anymore. I wanted to work at a place that was more family-based. They were able to form each other and support each other. These are just a couple of the awards that we've won. I think previous city council meetings talked about CMS star ratings. Certainly some of our facilities are five-star facilities. Leapfrog, which was originally started by businesses to rate healthcare and how they were getting services from healthcare companies and hospitals more recent scores than CMS are very important. We'll share that with you too. And other recognitions we have. We have certainly centers of excellence for a number of things, palliative care, orthopedic surgery. And I just wanted to say that we, like you folks, are considered a family with one another and support each other. So we continue to do that, but none of that happens without quality and compassion. We, myself being the son of a physician, we believe that survivability always starts with clinical quality and compassion for the people that we serve, and it's very important to us. Next slide, please. This is a quick story of one of the facilities that I oversee in Riverside, California, that also was facing a second bankruptcy. It has a lot of similarities to Seton Medical Center. We acquired that property just before we acquired Seton in 2019. We planned it perfectly right before the pandemic hit. But during the end of 2018, as we're ready to acquire this facility, our Leapfrog score was, you can see, an F and a D. And through partnership, we just received our third straight semester of a Leapfrog score A. The map on the bottom kind of indicates what I think we're proud of. We actually compete in some ways, right? There are other for-profit and nonprofit facilities on this map, and I think we've shown because of the partnership that we had. And clinical quality for a community is about partnership. The physicians, the community, quite frankly, our employees, most of all. And I will tell you that patient satisfaction and clinical scores, they rise through partnership. And I think for us at this Riverside facility during the pandemic, we had chiefs of staff that were living in dormitories to not give COVID to their family members and not coming home, working with the community to avoid readmissions. You know, some of these clinical quality ratings, we want to keep people out of the hospital. And at AHMC, especially in Southern California, we are prepaid for hundreds of thousands of patients every month. We act almost like Kaiser in that area. So people like me are kind of skating to the puck. What we want to do is we want to work with community people to keep people out of our facility. That's the future of healthcare and what we're all about at AHMC. Next slide, please. Just a couple of summary points, because I did get a chance to look at the previous city council meetings, mayor and council. Most importantly is that AHMC Healthcare is separate than Seton Medical Center. The operators at Seton Medical Center have no involvement with the land development and your item on your agenda tonight. This is a separate entity. They won't be encumbered in any way or fashion regarding the potential use for the city's benefit. Second, any resources from HC will not be spent on this development in this land. It won't impede anything regarding the clinical process or capital improvements for Seton Medical Center. Totally separate set of circumstances. Third, I know also from listening to the city council meeting, the question was where we're at in terms of compliance for seismic upgrades. We are now seismically compliant with the state of California. We did spend over $72 million, which I know that some of the community also played a role in as well. But the place is actually very seismically compliant and in good shape now for treating the residents of Daly City and beyond. And then lastly, just a comment from me is that for myself personally, again, back to population health, we see this project as a multi-generational, multicultural, multi-economic opportunity to develop kind of a blue zone, to provide something very special, I think, that happens in areas like Loma Linda, California, and places where you have food insecurities dealt with, and transportation, and access to ambulatory care and whatnot. And I just think that this is an amazing opportunity for us to build something, and we want to let you know from AHMC Healthcare that we support you and the council very much in this endeavor, should you choose to go forward. David?
Thank you very much, David. I'm the elder David Neon. Good to see you again, Mayor and council members. Next slide, please. I'm CEO of AGI Avant Group, and tonight I just think we want to share a little with you and the community our vision to how we want to jointly develop the top of the hill as well as an additional site on 1500 Southgate into an intergenerational wellness community. At AGI, we don't think of ourselves as, property developers or building constructors, but community builders. Next, please. And so this is kind of a blueprint of the ecosystem that we're creating not only around Seton Medical Center, but also other hospitals here in California. And it's to leverage off the hospital assets, often underutilized parking lots that were formed during the baby boomer era when these hospitals were built. But the hospitals have this existential challenges now. So off of that, as I mentioned earlier, is that we are planning to build senior living at the site. We're also planning to build market rate attainable housing. And housing, as you know, in Daly City has a 10% below market rate ordinance. So we are going to respect that, obviously. And also, we're looking at putting up either an extended stay hotel and/or having apartments within the housing that will accommodate families and loved ones seeking long-term care, as well as traveling nurses, et cetera. All this is, we think about it as a community, so it's all underpinned by amenities and retail. Typically, each one of these components will have its own, food canteen, other services, beauticians, wellness, therapy. But what we'd like to do is pull this out and share this within this village atop this beautiful hill. Next, please. And this is just to refresh everyone's memory. And you can see that this hospital itself sits on a discrete parcel, which is what we call the central parcel. It's neither south parcels, west parcels, or 1500 Southgate, which are the immediate parcels being considered for the potential rezoning for the housing element. Next, please. And so you can see this maybe a little more clearly. The parcels with the dashed lines, the one under Cerro that says CO, commercial office right now, as well as the two other separate parcels there atop the hill. Next, please. And effectively, this is the color zoning change that would occur. The RH on Southgate would essentially restore that whole block as housing, which is already surrounding it, as well as building new parcels atop the hill. Next, please. And this is just a schematic because we're very, very early in the process. As mentioned previously, we, working with AHMC, have decided that the operations of the hospital are most important and not to encumber it if there's building around it, even though it has separate access roads. We have slowed down the process, waited for this rezoning potentially to occur before continuing forward and putting our capital, our knowledge, and our know-how to work. There are some of the project descriptions. The parcel that says west parcel is senior living. And we're looking at a single building, which is in orange. The yellow buildings are more townhouse, low-rise types, which feather back into the neighborhood. On the south parcel, we see a series of buildings that are potentially interconnected, have courtyards, and promote wellness living with a lot of amenities at the base. 1500 Southgate is a satellite campus, satellite property down the hill, a couple blocks down the hill. And we see that as also a standalone residential building with potentially up to 7,000 square feet of ground floor commercial space. Next, please. One of the things that we also, have seen, not just in this community, but many others up and down the state, is that state mandate that was talked about a couple of sessions ago. And the balance of trying to provide more housing in California to combat the rising prices of housing, as well as local control. So we applaud the process you're thinking about going to with your very talented staff to get design principles in place, and this will then guide us. And these are just some that we will work very closely if this is approved and if we move forward to respect, again, these design principles and build a community. Next. So I think in summary, David, would you like to summarize? Or would you like me?
No, you guys.
Okay. So, we really, our calling card at AGI is really around sustainability, socially, environmentally, economically. And we believe if we do our job and do a good job building the community, we'll create more jobs, more of an economic base, help supplement the operations and cash flows at the hospital. In addition, talking to partners like AHMC, Hospital's number one pain point, especially post-COVID, is the attraction and retention of nurses. So we're looking at some of this housing and potentially setting aside or designating some towards nurses to help attract and retain some of these nurses. Many of these nurses are often single parents, will have childcare on site, et cetera, and also have some combined services around that. We believe that by having a senior living as well as a community up there on the hill, almost, all in total with the satellite site, almost 1,000 units, this will create more patients in the area as well as create more safety on site. We think also that we are also very expert at energy, waste, and water systems. So we don't plan on taxing the utilities here in Daly City, but rather creating more resiliency and more power and water on demand for this development. So in summary, we hope that this type of project will benefit and increase community services and access to healthcare in Daly City and maintain it, increase patient flow when needed, and also increase the economic growth and health of Daly City. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation on this. At this time, I think we will move into, if there's any questions or comments from my colleagues in regards to this at this time. And I think from our last meeting, there was definitely questions around understanding what this development would entail. And so I know there was definitely a need to have you all present today because some of those questions were directed to you all in regards to this development. And so, okay, yeah, Councilmember Peña.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for being here. We have heard back from the community and some of the employees, and we hear their concerns with regards to Seton Medical Center. So I think one of the questions would be, to clarify and to hear from you that this project wouldn't in any way take away from Seton Medical Center, that we would hope to hear, and I think you touched on it, that the project would in turn bring income so that you could better the medical center. Now, what we're hearing or what we've heard in past meetings is that Seton is not where it used to be. I can't judge that. I'm just making that comment. But that the hope of the community and for the employees as well is that Seton become what it was before and even better. And so it might help us or help the community in hearing from you with regards to the vision of where Seton will be hopefully sooner than later. The other thing is with regards to the projects. My personal concern is that once we rezone, rezoning gives you carte blanche because we're told we can't touch this after. And so there's a huge concern that what we're hearing is what's going to happen, So I don't know if you want to start first with regards to Seton. And again, a huge concern in the community is the level of care that's given and that it's not where it needs to be.
Sure. Thank you for the question, Councilmember Perron. I'll do my best to answer that set of questions. I think in healthcare, I use the term competitive. We're not where we want to be. I think that, quite frankly, nobody plans for a 100-year storm like we went through in this city, in this community. Certainly COVID, nobody plans for. We're still recovering in some ways from that. We have a lot of fatigued people trying to continue to motivate, whether they're providers, administrators, and nurses. And so the challenge is high. But I will tell you this, that again, our company, and I've been with the company since 2008, we serve a lot of challenged communities. And all of our hospitals are basically safety net hospitals. If you look at where we're located in El Monte, California, and Riverside, California, we've committed to those communities, and we commit to Daly City. And we won't stop until we're a leapfrog A here at Daly City. I can assure you that. It's important to us. For the vision part of what you said, for us, so many things that we deal with, to improve healthcare. And the way that the economics for hospitals are changing is dealing with social determinants of health. This, if you've not heard this term, it's, how does somebody avoid a readmitted to the hospital, right? There are folks that don't have transportation to the doctor. They don't go back to the doctor. They don't fill their medication, or they can't afford their medication, so they snap those pills in half. I think a project like this brings a little ecosystem by which we can spread out through all of Daly City to improve the health. Again, hospitals in the future, I think, and you see the technology changing to more hospitals at home, and these things would become a little less, always necessary, but maybe not as important as population health. I think something like a project like this is kind of like the technology Councilmember Sylvester said in terms of, catching the criminals. The technology will catch up. We will get better at this. But I can unwaveringly tell you that we are committed to making this a top 100 hospital in the United States.
Through the chair, may I ask a quick question?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I have another question for
Yes.
you. With regards to meeting and having some sort of communication with the employees, with the workers, with the departments, what is happening at Seton now where there's communication on what needs to be, priorities on what gets done and what needs to get done, what needs to be improved, all that? Or do you have that in place where you're in communication with the doctors and the departments and, staff and the nurses and such? I'm curious.
Yes, I think so. And I don't think that old adage that you never can over-communicate, but we have staff meetings at the departmental level. We have town hall meetings of all our hospitals, including Seton, where the administrators come in open forum and asking questions to where we're at and those kind of procedural questions about how we're improving, how we're doing. So all the information we share with you today, we want our employees to feel competitive to bring this back to a top 100 hospital. We want to be able to them to have those open forums, and we do. Sometimes it's difficult to get them attended. As you know, a lot of nurses are working 12-hour shifts, so we tend to schedule them early in the morning and late at night, so we catch people in and off shifts and things like that. But I will tell you, there's always opportunity to improve on the communication. But that's important to us because these are the people doing the work. They're not people like me, right? I will round on families and patients to bring comfort or to ensure things are being done. But the bedside caregivers is where that's at, and we have to continue to honor them and encourage them to improve.
And so to conclude my questions for you,
Yeah.
we know how important it is for your employees because Seton Medical Center is so important to the city of Daly City and the residents and surrounding cities. And in my opinion, what I'm hearing is that the employees feel as strongly as we do that Seton Medical Center is an important facility. And so where I'd like to, my personal request is that we hear from you, kind of just an update, and so that we hear that things are improving. Because what we have been hearing is that it has not. And we want you to succeed.
Right.
And we want our, the workers are many of them live here in Daly City. So we want them to succeed as well. So if you could just give in a nutshell, your vision for Seton in the next year and improvements and things that hopefully will be getting done.
I hope I'm the right person to add that level of detail, and I'll do my best to do that. But I will say also, too, that it is not intended to be an excuse. I think that this city and this medical center, this belongs to the city. We're the stewards of this, and we appreciate that. And I think we can come back and communicate with you all, so you feel that we're doing that. I think through the financial two bankruptcies of this facility, what we inherited, I think there was not a ton of enough due diligence done by our organization to respond to the bankruptcy. And it doesn't mean to be an excuse. But I will say other facilities that we've purchased, and I've been part of them in my career with AHMC, weren't as quite as challenging as this one was. Again, not to meant to be an excuse, but I can see where the frustration comes from because the frustration was here for so many years before we even arrived. Having said that, for the next year, again, continue to restore all the services that that have lost and we're trying to recover. I think to be able to let people know that we are not a designated COVID facility, that we're open and we're available to the community, and to get engaged on that patient satisfaction area on a very diligent basis to hear from them. Those patient HCAP scores that we have and patient satisfaction, if you've heard that term, 70% of the time, those are filled out by the patient's families, not the patient. Patient's not in a situation where they can remember how it happened to them. So in the next year, what we really want to see is our clinical scores and our patient satisfaction scores up, because that indicates that the community is accepting the changes that we're making and they're feeling that we're doing a good job. I think that's our focus for the next year.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Yes,
from
I
my
have a
colleagues,
few.
Councilmember Sylvester?
I'd like to commend you folks for being here to address some of the questions that has been asked by the community, and I have a few myself. Excuse me. Have you, prior to the housing element plan, which is on the table, have you contacted the city in the past with the process to wanting to build on, your term was underutilized property?
Yes. Yes, Councilman Sylvester, we started the process and engaged your very talented, we work with a lot of planning directors and economic development directors up and down the state. And I can really honestly say it's been a pleasure working with those that represent Daly City. So we started approaching them, and I think our first discussion, formal discussion, was in early 2023. We did our first initial homework. We came to engage, said, okay, what do you want here? What makes sense? And then they started talking to us about the housing element, about our vision to, create a healthy and environment up here. So we took that back, and then we started looking at developing those notions a little more concretely into planning terms. So we did a whole bunch of density studies. We had a high and a low, and then we didn't go for the highest, but we went for something that felt like it made sense given the economics here in Daly City. We also then took the satellite site and formed with AHMC, which I believe provided a memo on May 23rd, 2023. I can check those exact dates, but endorsing and supporting the housing element efforts here in Daly City. So off of that, then we actually had some for 1500 Southgate, had some discussions with a pre-application that looked at putting housing on site with some commercial potentially at the base to stay consistent with the rest of the planning. And we had actually a letter back from the city after that, from the fire department, from other departments that did a preliminary review. So as to basically validate the approach we were starting to take. But all that, we didn't want to go more forward on that until this possible rezoning took place, because otherwise we just didn't know which way it was going. And at the same time, our AHMC was reorganizing. For example, on 1500 Southgate, it's a two-story medical office building. They had to decant that, all the doctors and vendors there, onto their present campus and reconsolidate to make a better operation for themselves. So all the stuff has been taking place. The intention has been there, subject to the housing element, the rezoning.
Okay, so if I get this correct, this process started in 2023, and it's my understanding that we should have had the housing element submitted about that time. And we are late in producing the housing element. So you spoke with the folks of planning. You told them that, and this is what the gist that I'm getting, is that you explained, or AHMC indicated, well, we need to make better use of our unused property. And when you spoke to planning and indicated your desire, oh, by the way, we have a housing element plan that's due, and this could really contribute to Daly City satisfying its housing element plan, which, by the way, even if we were to pass this, we're 1,682 units short at this particular time. Thank you. Now, my next question is, and I'm going to be frank. I know part of the answer, but I just want you to validate, the both of you, why build?
Let me take that first.
Yeah, why don't you take it first?
Well, from my perspective, Councilmember Sylvester, I think because of what we talked about before, I think for this facility to develop and to thrive, it needs to have some recognition around it and have some rededication in terms of the community understanding that this is not just a hospital, but this is a healthcare community. So I think that this housing, are there enough people in these dwellings to basically, financially keep the hospital? No. But is it a start to develop something unique that puts Daly City on the map, and more importantly, Seton Medical Center back on the map to be a center of excellence? I think it's a wonderful starting point to help Seton Medical Center continue back to grow into what the facility needs to be for this community.
Well, okay.
Yes, sir.
You did make a comment earlier, and I'll speak to that comment. But I'm trying to lead you down to a path and basically let the community know. Basically, it's a roundabout way indicating the performer of Seton Hospital and what AHMC is going through. And I'm basically not getting that. You did make a statement, number one, it's going to bring jobs. Number two, to supplement cash flow. Does that still hold true?
Yeah, I made that comment.
Oh, okay.
and- Yeah, and it's because we're talking about potential deal terms and then, how we joint venture on this property. Basically, in our discussions, which has led to a term sheet, is that we at AGI would provide all the capital. They would contribute land as potentially as equity, and therefore we'd look at how we split the proceeds coming off of this. And then, so in front or in perpetuity, then there is cash flows back. In addition, in speaking to not just Seton, but many of the other hospital CFOs, if we do this right, and we will do this right if we do it, is that it increases the valuation of the hospital. And therefore, it gives them more of an ability to perform other finance, borrow money, et cetera, from that additional monies.
Which segues to your point, sir, increasing the value of the hospital, because you made a comment, committed to getting to A level. It's not A level now, but you're committed in any way, shape, or form to get Seton to that higher level. That's what I'm getting. Okay, jobs, supplement cash flow, recognition, I picked up from that. What is your timetable, as the housing element plan is a plan to be approved and it extends out to 2031? What is your timetable if this was approved?
So we would like to move on this as quickly and as efficiently as possible, starting with 1500 Southgate, because it's a satellite site, and that would be a good one that would not affect the current operations, while we were to go through more approval processes and towards building permits.
And obviously, this is not going to happen overnight. Do you intend on providing us information as to the phase in development of the various parcels and what's going to go into those parcels?
Yeah, I think as we do more market research and as we continue to look at our program, we do not have a finite pro forma yet. We know it's in the right ballpark, just because of the way the deal is structured. For example, we're paying no land costs up front, then it gives us some ability to cushion it and move forward. So it will depend on the market, among other things, but our plan is to move on this post haste.
Thank you very much. I have no further questions at this time.
Thank you, Councilmember Sylvester, for your questions. One thing I want to, and I think you've answered the question, on your slide, you have bullet point number 2, generate economics to sustain the hospital. And you mentioned how those terms would be. I think some of the questions and what we've heard from community members is how is this going to make sure that the priority is to ensure that the hospital, is given the opportunity to thrive. You mentioned it that this is basically like, even though it's not owned by the city, but it's the city hospital that's in Daly City, and is a community asset. And you've heard from many members how important this hospital is. And so when I see that bullet number 2, generate economics to help sustain hospital, you did mention it as far as how that would actually happen. You talked about it earlier. I think it's important to reiterate that, how that mechanics would work, and that you also mentioned that, did you say that AGI would be the ones to actually put the monies up front?
That's right, Mayor Manalo. AGI would be responsible for the capital with our investors, and as well as with our expertise. We've won many accolades and mixed use properties, and also then we bring our experience and know-how to this. Actually, if you go back a couple slides, that kind of ecosystem slide, a couple few more. And to us, this is why the hospital is so important. You can see the hospital anchors the ecosystem. If this hospital is not healthy, our community we're attaching around it will not be healthy. So we are aligned in making sure, as much as, with them doing their work and their job to, upgrade the hospital, because if they upgrade the hospital, it'll also upgrade our community around it.
Okay, thank you for that. Another question I do have is, you're talking about the timeline that Councilmember Sylvester had asked earlier in regards to this project. As AGI, how have you utilized local labor in your projects? And is that what is your track record in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, we've done many projects in the 10 Bay Area counties, especially in San Francisco in our 25-year history. As you know, in San Francisco, you have to work with labor on every project. So we have very good relationships with labor, and labor understands what we do. And we always look for a win-win solution with them, and they understand that.
Okay, I just want to reiterate, I think that as Daly City here, we are definitely a working families town, and a community that's filled with a lot of folks that are part of different labor, especially around the construction trades. And so that's something, I know this is not where we're at here, but you're talking about future. And it's important that I hear from all of you how you've worked with labor in the past, because I think it's a value that us here as a council really look towards. And so I appreciate you sharing your insight, and also how you've worked with labor in the past. But I would think, seeing these types of projects, especially localized projects in our community, it's something that is of value to all of us, to ensure that, you work very closely with the construction trades and labor in our community.
Duly noted. Just to share with you too, we look at, because of our sustainability metrics, social, economic, and environmental, we like to make sure as many of the people that are working pre, during, and post-construction are closer to the site, so, people aren't driving all over the place, expending carbon, et cetera. That's one of our KPIs for our company. In all the communities we work with, we definitely want to have labor closer, ideally, because it helps our projects, right? If people are driving from an hour and a half, 2 hours away, they get stuck in traffic, it impacts the project. So we've worked with a lot of very reputable general contractors. We ourselves are not a general contractor, but in the end, they have more of the say, but we work very closely with them.
Thank you. Those are just some of my questions right now, and we have some more later.
Through the chair.
Vice Mayor and then Councilmember DiGiovanni.
Well, thank you for your thorough presentation. Mr. Batista, thank you for giving me those specific examples. It brought me back home. I grew up in the Inland Empire. So it was, so when you brought up like Parkview Hospital, my mom was a nurse there back in the 90s. And she worked there, and my high school is down the street from Parkview Hospital, so I get the community right there. And I still continue to go back and forth because my family's still out there. And you also mentioned Loma Linda and having this type of campus not campus, but housing, hospital ecosystem. But I understand that because Loma Linda is like a university, right? Loma Linda University, so I get like the housing for students, housing for residents. My brother got residency there. So my question is, and also AGI, are there models around the nation that you're proposing, that you're trying to propose for Seton, for us to have like some sort of understanding, like, does this work?
And maybe I'll take this first, since David already mentioned Loma Linda, which is a terrific, terrific example. And, we're talking to a lot of folks out there, and they also have a nurses teaching university out there. So yes, we've been looking at some of the best exemplars from around the world, especially in Asia, also in Europe and other places. California is increasingly, the demographic is getting aging, and we are actually getting more ethnic. And because of that, we're also looking at the social lifestyle patterns, where a lot of people as they age, they want to stay engaged as part of the community. And, I have a lot of friends that like playing golf, but most don't want to be out on a golf course somewhere on the edge of, far edges of town. So long story short is that we are trailblazing this in California, but we're taking a lot of best practices and lessons learned from our other projects as well as other projects and trying to inculcate them and integrate them here. We believe we've built mixed-use developments before, but this is taking another step. We're using background technologies to look at preventative and personalized wellness and healthcare. And to AHMC and many other healthcare providers' models, they actually make more profit if people stay healthier. And so it is our belief too, and that's why we're trying to create this community together.
And I would, thank you, David. I would echo that too, council member. I don't think there's a perfect model for this. I think healthcare is a local issue. I may not look like it. My father's from Cuba, my mother's from Mexico, and the Inland Empire, and Latino it is. But we reach out to folks like one of our consultants, Dr. Dora Barilla. She runs a company called AC2 Strategies. And I think the lost phenomenon is public health. And you all, as stewards of the city of Daly City, when these things happen, how are these things built where there is a community area to farm and to grow and to understand education, to go into the schools and understand that sometimes food that's very inexpensive are the things that's creating diabetes and these things. And our hospital systems, we're changing, I think, the financial model, moving from fee-for-service on a per-click to value-based. And again, the economics are changing for us to be incentivized to keep people well. So I don't think there's an exact blueprint that we have. I think that Daly City has its own thumbprint as I've been here. And I think that some of the effort that needs to be taken place is what is unique about Daly City and this culture to make it successful.
All right, thank you. That's not for me.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember DiGiovanni.
Thank you. First of all, thank you guys for being here tonight. So hopefully we can clarify. So let's begin with probably on what they refer to as generator revenue. I think you saw on that slide. So I want to clarify a few things first. It's my understanding that if we rezoned it, there's no guarantee and we cannot hold you. Is that true, Michael? in our planning, that there's no guarantee into our city attorney, that we don't have any way to enforce or have a contract with to make sure that the revenues that they say they're going to generate off of any of the thing they build, to make sure it comes to the hospital to rebuild, to go into our hospital. There's nothing that we can do legally.
That's correct, Councilmember.
Okay, thank you. Also, let me clarify that once we rezoned these parcels and how they began, they were hospital. So when AHMC, just to go back a little bit to review for people at home or in the audience, but yes, there was a bumpy transition. There was an asset purchase agreement with conditions, as we all know, provided by our Attorney General, that certain services had to stay in place until 2025. And somehow, and we all know from doctors, nurses, healthcare workers, that currently is in litigation because those services are not, there were violations of the contract. And I'm not mistaking because I read the complaint from the Attorney General. So, and the original intent of purchasing the hospital in our Daly City was to keep the workers, to expand healthcare, to make it a healthy community for all of us, right? Our focus was on, this is our community hospital. We chose AHMC. We're excited. We're going to keep the healthcare workers. We can maybe even expand after the conditions. And my idea is that if we can clarification from all this, then we can move into even providing back maternity, breast cancer, mammogram. Currently, you can't even have a mammogram. The elevator was closed for over a year. So these things, I won't go into the list, but, and I'm not here to publicly, I'm saying this so respectfully, because we were all partners in the beginning. Healthcare workers, 33 of them, longtime healthcare workers were laid off. And then like one thing after the other, and we're like, as a community member and as an elected official, and hearing this from the people that live here that use it, that they want their hospital back. They want to be able to go there for breast cancer and for STEMI and for heart. And Kaiser uses it for heart and a lot of places in our county. And it's not that way now. It was a 4 and went to a 1. And I'm like, what happened here? So I was willing to know, I know there was like bumps in the road for financial reasons or what have you, but please help me understand that people that come into our community that say they want us to maintain our health care and our workers and our community, and they come to me and want residential when they haven't even maintained the hospital. And then to say it's separate, or according to the asset purchase agreement in section 1, it includes real property. So I had asked this to our city attorney the last time, and she did say we could rezone. She said we could rezone it. But I would like to find out from the Attorney General themselves if we can rezone this from hospital to residential. Because in the original asset agreement, that hospital zoning is there. And wouldn't you like to see more expansion, more jobs and healthcare jobs, a maternity place where people can actually, in northern our area, have a baby? They have no place to have a baby. Even Kaiser patients have to go to Redwood City. You know, my thinking is we're going to make this better, and we're not going to put people at risk in our community. And then I got somehow people were contacting me that if the ER closes, the whole hospital closes. That's pretty serious. And it's already serious with the AG and the litigation as is. We've lost doctors. Some are at the VA now. And you have to understand how devastating this is to our community. While this wellness campus looks so great and could be down the road, why can't we all work together, rebuild our hospital first, put those services back, work together with the AG, and then we go and we see what we can do. But take some of that and leave it as hospital so we can use it to expand medical. It would be a perfect site to expand for medical. Like you said, like when we have residences or we have nurses or healthcare workers or bring in a center, like, UCSF has a center. We had catheterization, a stroke center. We were number one. We were number one in these areas for heart and everything else. We have a heart attack now, and people are saying, I can't go to Seton. You go have infusion. There's no infusion treatments anymore. You can't separate it. You cannot separate, even though this is on for rezoning. And even if the AG was here tonight and I asked him, I'm not even sure he knows that this is happening tonight. And I would like to hear from him first, because the original asset agreement in real property does include that property that we are looking at tonight. And I don't think he would be too happy to have it rezoned to residential when he hasn't even had the services extended or rebuilt yet. So I'm asking my colleagues, and I would like to hear from all of you, and we have no guarantee. You could say you build a wellness center, but maybe down the road the market changes and it could be 10 stories here or 10 stories there. And the parking lot in front is utilized. That front entrance that was taken away, that was devastating to the community, because that's where a lot of people got access. Their family had surgeries. There's a gentleman in here tonight that had surgery, and his wife would have to park somewhere to try to get him here back and forth. And it was devastating. I get texts from patients inside. The elevator doesn't work. They had to go up and down. The healthcare workers had to go up and down the stairs. So help me understand why here tonight. And again, we could all fix this. We could all fix this together. But we need health care in this community. There's something that was promised by AHMC, a group of doctors who do no harm, told us at that AG meeting that we are going to thrive. We are going to have this, 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 and this. They were interested in our health, our wellness. And all it's done is it's deteriorated. And then a patient gets transferred to Mills Peninsula, gets changed, and that's documented by the California Department of Health. And then Mills Peninsula files against AHMC, of this incident. And there's multiple that I won't get into, because I have these people that they're so devastated. And if you're not a Kaiser patient, and this is our community hospital, this is all we have. I want to talk to the AG. I want to see if we're even able to do this with the original asset purchase agreement himself, because I can't believe it, because you went in for the original and now we're going to change it just by that. And then the front part is going to change. And once we change it, we will never get it back. We'll never be able to expand our healthcare in this Northern California area, which is so needed, and our population is growing because we are building housing and because we service the area around us, Pacifica, Colma, Broadmoor. And so we want to be number one again. And help us be number one. Be our partners, AHMC. Do what you said you were going to do for our health. This is not going to be providing for health, because we don't even know. It's a concept plan. And being, as we all know, developments do change because, market or what have you. And then what guarantee do we have that is done, it's entitled, just like some we have in our community, and then it's sold? We have no guarantee. And the state has provided the laws, which is not your law, that we have no public comment, no public input. And then here we receive a letter that says, on behalf of the National Union of Healthcare Workers, I'm writing to express our opposition to the proposed rezoning of parcel at Seton Medical Center from hospital to high-density residential use, unless there is a concrete commitment to keep the hospital operational beyond the December 2025, of which we don't have any guarantee. We sincerely appreciate the City Council's efforts. I'm sorry about didn't bring my glasses. Over the past decade to support Seton Medical Center through the bankruptcy proceedings and multiple ownership, I think it says changes. We believe the council's top priority regarding Seton Medical Center should be to ensure that essential healthcare services for Daly City residents are restored and was maintained well into the future. Like the future, we could have again, maternity, breast cancer. We can't even get a mammogram here. And the commitment from AHMC. In considering future development at the Seton site, we encourage the council to look to successful local models for balancing community benefit and development. For example, the Ceremony Del Rey housing project and dedicated the revenue to, I think it says, to benefit the Jefferson High School District in Daly City and the surrounding neighborhood while providing affordable housing for teachers and school staff. So that was a concrete that we had it in writing. Similarly, San Francisco CPMC development agreement, that they had a development agreement that secured essential community benefits, including healthcare services, affordable housing, workforce development, and transportation improvements, alongside, and I believe, use approvals for Sutter Health Development Plan. The proposed general plan amendment referencing the Seton rezoning, and it labels it, estimates that, I believe it says 85% of housing unite at the Seton site will be affordable for lower and, I think it says, moderate income households. However, this projection appears very, overly optimistic. Is AHMC would only be required to meet the Daly City's inclusionary housing ordinance, which mandates just 10% affordable rental units or 20% affordable ownership. We respectfully urge the City Council to postpone approval of the Seton rezoning proposal until a comprehensive public engagement process with AHMC can be conducted. The process is essential to fully evaluating the impact of the proposed housing development at Seton Medical Center future and ensuring that vital health care services remain accessible in Daly City residents. Sincerely, Gordon Moore, National Union Healthcare Workers. The reason I read this out loud is that I understand, but you were our partners in the beginning, and we were so happy that people wanted to come for health care, right? So you have to understand that yes, housing, but with that housing, there's no guarantee, even if they had the housing, those people could go to Sutter, they could go to Kaiser, they could go, so there's no saying that they can go to any of that. And again, I think the mayor touched on this and my other council members the last meeting about the state legislator. I think she spoke out in the beginning that there was no control once it's done. No public process, nothing. And we don't even know what could happen down the road. And we need to maintain these services.
Council member,
So thank you. So that's all I have for now.
yeah, I was
And I have other
going to ask you
questions
if you
after
had a
public comment.
question in regards to that.
Thank you.
I believe we all received the letter.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This was sent over to us, and I really greatly appreciate that the letter was sent over to us as well. And I
Yeah.
gave you the opportunity to read that on the dais. But do you have a question?
Yeah, I do, after the public comment.
Okay.
I'll have more questions. Thank you, but thank you.
Okay, so through the chair. So to me, right now, it sounds like the success of Seton Medical Center is dependent on the success of this project. Meaning, with this project, it will facilitate Seton Medical Center to grow. In your diagram here, it shows me that Seton is the hub. So with the hub being Seton, it then extends out to your other wellness ecosystem, correct? That's what I'm seeing. So that's a first observation on that. There's 4 parcels that you guys are talking about. One is the side of a hillside, so it's not being used, right? One was downside of a hillside, and the other ones were parking. And so there is still an abundance of land up on the hill, correct? And you're saying that you want to start this project as soon as possible. So, first of all, Michael, is it possible to have conditions on the zoning that we do approve? Meaning, could the conditions on zoning be on those parcels specifically? And so it shouldn't be a problem if that's what's happening and that's what's proposed and that's what they want to start doing. Instead of doing a blanket rezoning, the other question is, Councilmember Sylvester mentioned that with Seton, with these projects, if it went through, for the housing element, we're still short, so we would not be in compliance, or is that what I'm understanding?
No, Councilmember Brown, the shortfall is in part met with the rezoning of these properties. So, together with all of the other rezonings that are before you tonight, the shortfall is covered.
So it would be covered?
Yes.
Okay, so that's one.
That's why.
I understand. Okay, I was just concerned when I heard that. It concerned me. And then for AGI, you're here, so you're speaking, and I wasn't understanding when Councilmember Di Giovanni was saying, well, they should be here to answer questions. You are here answering the questions.
Yes.
So so when you said as soon as possible, you would want to start this ecosystem village, wellness village, to give Seton Medical Center that help.
Enhancement.
And so, right. And so then for you, sir, trying to understand and hear you is that this project that we're talking about, because right now Seton is bleeding, correct? Is that what we're hearing? There's not enough business, there's overhead, there's wages, there's all this. And as much as we want Seton to succeed, without this project, would it succeed?
I won't necessarily make a prediction at that, council member, but I will say that this is an enhancement. I think we want to be the provider of choice in the city of San Bruno and the city of San Francisco, South San Francisco, and other locations. This project itself alone is not what's going to save and make the facility thrive. It's going to be a much larger and capture area to do that. I think this nicely enhances the intentions of the city of Daly City to not meet these housing standards alone, but also do something actually very important that the community would benefit from. But no, this is not the single saving grace of this facility. It's a much larger piece of that. And we want to restore all the services and be centers of excellence. Some of these things are not done inside the box of the hospital, whether it's mammography or other things like that. The future of healthcare is not so much dependent by what's in the box all the time, because sometimes the outpatient services have grown. But that also means that maybe the future of Seton Medical Center is to have disparate outpatient service centers in San Bruno or San Francisco or places like that, that's not dependent on just that postage stamp of land, but it goes far beyond this project. But this would be a great enhancement.
So what you're saying is kind of like finding Kaiser all over the place, right? And finding UC all over the place. It's not
Yeah, I mean, well, it's in California, the last metric I heard, council member, it's $3 million a bed to build a hospital in California based on the seismic requirements. We can still fulfill additional services and serve the community, but it doesn't always have to be dependent on that specific box, which is a very expensive place to build. There's other more efficient ways to do that other healthcare providers are doing. And we've ourselves have done that too in our company.
Thank you. Michael, back to my one question, please, and I'm sorry to have you up and down. The question is, with regards to that zoning, is there a way we can specifically put conditions on the zoning due to the fact that it seems that there's not a comfort zone to do a blanket zoning, but just to specifically speak about the projects, these projects in those zoning spaces and not do a blanket change?
There really isn't, council member. The housing element at this point has been reviewed by the state of California, and it's been given a green light the way it's written. Anything else would have to go back to the state for essentially a reexamination. And the state would have to conduct an analysis. They get a certain amount of time to do this about whether the constraint or the condition of approval that, if you will, that the city council has placed on the rezonings is still in conformance with the housing element law. So it's kind of tricky.
So had this been brought up months ago or a year ago, we would have had wiggle room to do something, but at this
Possibly.
point, we cannot?
That's possibly true, yes. It's, even though that's true, I probably should add to that, it's probably not likely. The state likes very clear rezonings without a whole lot of strings attached to them. So we would have had more, just to add to my answer, we would have had more time to, say, bring that up and discuss with the state. It very likely would not have been approved, though, depending on what the condition is, of course. For example, revenue must go back into the hospital, sort of a requirement. That's probably something that the state would say, that's probably tying the hands too much.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
I wouldn't mean that.
yeah.
What I meant was that these specific parcels would be used for the particular project that we're talking about. As long as it is, which
Sure.
you're saying it's going to be, then it wouldn't be a big deal, but it would make us feel better is if we are just rezoning
I think I
those
understand what you mean.
specifics so they could proceed with their project of a wellness village and would not have that feeling because it was zoned medical councils ago because people wanted to make sure that that hill did that. And so that's why I'm asking. I'm not saying that we want to say, take all the money, fix the elevator, bring back breast exams or whatever. I'm not saying that. We're saying that the project the zones be used as we are discussing it, and then you guys would proceed with this.
Right.
The question.
So we would have had a specific development project in front of us, and the applicant just wasn't that far along with the plan to do something like
Are
that.
they now? It sounds like they
On
are.
1500 Southgate, we have a pre-application that we actually have a drawing of a building, for example. It was in our presentation. But for the other portions of the site, we don't have anything that specific. We tonight saw a rough site plan of what it might look like. But again, there hasn't been anything very specific about specific number of units. The concepts for the parcels immediately surrounding the Seton Hospital itself has just not have been, they're not that well developed yet.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Prano, for those questions, and thank you for answering them. Are there any other questions from my colleagues at this time? Seeing none, we'll be proceeding through public comment.
If I may, Mayor,
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we open up to public comment at this time,
Okay.
unless there are any other comments.
Okay, thank you very much. I have.
Madam
a
Mayor, through the chair, before we open up for public comments, I'd like to make a few
comments in regards to the urgency ordinance.
Okay, sure. City Attorney Zimmerman, before we do public comment, go ahead, please.
And just for the record, we are opening public comment, but public comments has been closed, but we are reopening it for purposes of the second hearing, as noted by Councilmember Sylvester. I wanted to make mention just before we go into public comment, a few points that were made and pure comments, just for clarification. So as you are well aware, this is an urgency ordinance, and the urgency came about because of the focus of the certified housing element, which impacts the city greatly. I do want to address, because I know it was brought up several times by Councilmember DiGiovanni, the lawsuit that was filed by the California Attorney General's office, Rob Bonta. And it is important to note, because I know it is a concern for the council, how that lawsuit would impact the vote for rezoning. The lawsuit itself focuses on service commitments that were alleged breaches of the asset purchase agreement. Had nothing to do with property, has nothing to do with rezoning. It has everything to do with service agreements, service emergency, the stroke center. These were commitments that were a condition of the asset purchase agreement on the transfer in 2020. And the allegations that were served by the Attorney General that these were essentially breached. So in regards to rezoning, there is no prohibition, there is nothing in regards. In fact, there is an exemption in the agreement itself that talks about zoning, and that is not part of a condition. It's actually an exemption. It's also important to note that when we talk about the services commitments that were essentially pointed out that were breached in the agreement, this is in regards to the hospital. The hospital itself is still zoned a hospital. They're talking about areas around the hospital. And the services that are being served are within that hospital that is still served as a hospital. My understanding as well is even if you were to rezone it, and it is an exemption in the asset purchase agreement, these properties for rezoning and housing, my understanding, are to be leased. They're not to be sold to the developers. Is that my understanding?
Thank you, City Attorney.
Yeah.
I think our current discussions are really about a joint venture.
Yes. So currently, they would still remain owners of the property, and my understanding as well is the Attorney General would have to approve any sale of hospital property as well, which would be also conditions. So when we talk about it, not to interject, but we are talking about a complaint that deals with service commitments. Part and parcel of the project that is being presented today is to enhance and to help sustain a hospital so that they can sustain these services. And I would think that would be consistent with the Attorney General's opinion. That being said, other things that I wanted to bring up, why tonight is an urgency, so for us and the public to be aware of, is we are in noncompliance with the housing element, which means we are subject to a high risk of litigation by the state themselves and by the Attorney General, who can actually enforce any kind of sanctions upon us, which could lead to a fee anywhere that leads from $10,000 to $100,000 a month, and which can escalate over time if the city continues to not have a housing element. One of the other aspects of this is a penalty. Not that I want to raise this as an issue for the developer, but the developer would eventually may have rights if we do not certify a housing element, and that's the builder's remedy. It may be an elephant in the room, but it is definitely a remedy, which means that whatever the council does decide and you maintain the existing zoning today, if there is a plan in place and they do want to proceed, a court can enforce, the Attorney General can also enforce that the development proceed. And that's a remedy that's as a result. It's competing state interests as well, because we do want to have a hospital, but it's also competing that we also want housing, and we want to have a housing certified element. So I just wanted to bring those points out because we did change the public hearing this evening from a regular ordinance of introduction to an urgency ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, City Attorney Zimmerman, for those clarifications regarding the urgency and also the clarification in regards to, I think, the question that we had, both Councilmember DiGiovanni and I had asked you to look into in regards to the Attorney General and in that respect. So thank you for that. At this point, as mentioned, I think public comment was closed, but for this special meeting, we will open the public comment. Council Member Sylvester, we have a motion to do so. Do I have a second? I'll second it. Let's open the public comment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you very much. And first, we have Dr. Robert Perez. Please come up.
Thank you again for having me verify some of the information and also ask some questions to particularly of your counsel. The important aspect here that was brought up was how the police officers are being treated here. Part of how they're treated is how well they get health care. I've personally taken care of several of them at Seton Hospital who got bullet wounds to their chest, and they lived successfully. That was 25 years ago. Could I treat those patients now? No way. First of all, everyone knows not to bring them there. But second, I don't have the backup and facility to do it. So we don't have the same hospital. I have 10 other issues to talk about, but I'd like to start with the a comment that was made by Ms. Zimmerman, and that is, I'm wondering if the DOJ, have she talked to the DOJ? I would love to know if she talked to Heidi Lehrman, who wrote the plaintiff's outline as to what their faults were. And also, Section 1, where it does say the real property is involved in this asset parcel agreement. So with all due respect to Mrs. Zimmerman, I didn't hear anything about her conversations with the DOJ. The reason I mention this is because the co-side got closed inadvertently. Seton said they had a, quote, mold problem. They went to the California Department of Public Health. They said, okay, great, we'll close it. They did not discuss it with the DOJ. The DOJ went berserk when they found out that they were not informed, as the APA agreement says, that they're supposed to be informed whenever there's a major change. So that's why I'm wondering if she did talk to Heidi Lehrman about this.
Thank you very much.
You know, I do think it's a little unfair that they get to say half an hour of what they're saying, and most of it was untrue, and we can't talk, an equal amount. We, the physicians, there's 4 of us here. So I think that if you really want a balanced discussion, you should allow us to have a little bit more than 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. May we please have Dr. Maywin Wu?
I'll give my 2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes, you can do that.
Thank you, fellow colleague. The other issue that I think is real important to talk about is the track record of AHMC. Glenn Sylvester brought up a good point, and that is, here's the main hub, and what are we expecting out of developing all this? And this was interesting to find out that the subsequent land development is going to be contributing to the main hub, that is AHMC. What we have seen from the main management here has been a disaster, and that's a kind word. Today, I prevented the hospital from closing, and I'll tell you why. The ER docs had said they are not going to show up for work today at 3 o'clock. I convinced them that that's not appropriate, even though they felt they were in indentured servitude because they hadn't been paid by the hospital in over 2.5 months. So there was a big catastrophe happening today. And, yours truly worked with both sides, and, hopefully we're working something out that at least they didn't walk out today. But had the ER walked out, it would have been it would have been an automatic quid pro quo closure of the entire hospital. So that's just one little thing. I mean, you're asking the wolf to guard the hen house. This is how this has been. I saw his presentation 5 years ago. And, we'll make you a 5-star hospital. You'll be at Leapfrog A. What are we today? We are a CMS 1-star, not a 4-star like they inherited. He's right. They had some problems when they got it, but they got it as a 4-star hospital. And a Leapfrog A today, Leapfrog C or D, and CMS 1. So this is who you're getting in bed with. And be careful, because this will not end.
Thank you. Dr. Spira?
Thank you again. Dr. Perez has said almost everything I wanted to say. I just ask you to be cautious, please, because AHMC has driven Seton Hospital into the ground. And they closed Coastside. They destroyed the stroke center. They're destroying the emergency room. They destroyed the cath lab. The morale of the hospital is zero. They fired 30 or 33 CNAs before Christmas. That is the ultimate in Grinchhood. Know who you are dealing with. When you lie down with dogs, you not only get up with fleas, but sometimes you get rabies.
Thank you very much. Can we have Sharif Adam, please?
Hello. So I'm a nurse at Seton Medical Center in the emergency department, and I would just like to speak to specifically the claims by the AHMC management about retaining and treating nurses and other medical professionals with respect and dignity they deserve. Those are words that are great, and I love to hear them, but in practice, frankly, I don't see the action behind those words. And so I want to know exactly how they actually plan on performing these actions to treat us with the dignity and respect that we deserve, to be able to treat the patients with the dignity and respect that they deserve. Because frankly, across the board, I don't see that. Some things in particular are last December, our health benefits came into play, and they completely changed them without notice, without conversation with us, without any communication at all. So we were left with a subpar medical policy that we are still to this day trying to fight with them about, to get understanding, clarity, and frankly, the protection that we need, that we had before, but now no longer. Just a couple weeks ago, open enrollment came up again, and we are wondering the same thing. We're having the same fears. In a few more months, we're going to have negotiations for our contract to be renewed. The last time they had a conversation with the other union that we're a part of, the NUHW, they stonewalled them for at least a few months. They couldn't get any straight answers. Meetings were canceled last minute. So frankly, our fears are the same thing are going to happen. They're going to try to lowball us. They're not going to keep with their promises. They haven't kept with their promises. They haven't communicated with us. There's no trust. So without the trust, how can we take anything that they have to say as fact when frankly all of it's been fiction? Those are my words. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much. And we have Bob Quinn.
I'd like to give my time to Dr. Perez, and also the other doctor had a minute 20 left. I would request that his time be given to Dr. Perez also. I want you to give that time to Maywin Wu of radiologist, who's been here for a long time.
Okay, thank you very much. Please come up, Dr. Wu.
Good evening, council members. What I heard about from some of the council members about how Seton has been doing deep in my mind that I think some of you really heard the voice from the medical staff at Seton Medical Center. I'm Dr. Maywin Wu. I'm a radiation oncologist working at Seton for 21 years. I've been seeing all the changes during the past years. We have good years providing good service, but that's just like a day and night comparison nowadays. When a when AHMC bought Seton Medical Center, at that time, I already heard the rumor about that. This is the organization which is more interested in the property rather than providing good health care. I was one of those doctors always kept a good hope, trying to convince our colleagues and patients that no, that's not true. Things will get better, but with this hope keeping there, the fact to make me feel that the hope is going away. It's really heartbreaking. And sometimes we even did not get drinking water, and during the past week, we were even short of gowns, patients' gowns, and linens. So those are, a lot of things are meeting the basic requirement. So I just want to pass over a lot of my teammates, colleagues, patients' question. If AHMC is more interested in property, in real estate, or it is really care about patient care. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Are there any other public comments? This is the rest of the cards I have here. If none, we will motion to close public comment. Do I have a first?
Glenn Sylvester, motion to close.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, thank you very much. I just, first and foremost, I want to thank everyone that spoke this evening. I want to thank the presenters as well as staff on this item. We had continued this item to today to hear more around the questions that were brought up. And so I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that is with us this evening. At this time, are there any other questions or comments from my colleagues? I'll allow for further discussion, and then we'll move into deliberation and also for a vote.
Yes,
And
please.
so, Councilmember DiGiovanni, and then Councilmember Prano.
Yeah, I have a question, maybe, and thank you, Rose, for clarifying a lot of things, but is it possible, I think that along with Brian, they're trying to figure something out. I can see that she's trying to figure something out. Are we able to approve the housing, we have those 4 ordinances, and we approve them separately, and then we just approve it without any of the parcels that are attaining to Seton?
My understanding is no, because the housing element requires that these zonings take place, or else it will not be certified.
And are we able to, if the council chose, would they be able to ever revisit, like you said, so we're not able to pull this out of the Seton and then maybe revisit it later? Like revisit it? Are we able to do that?
I'll defer to planning.
Oh, thank you, Michael.
Certainly. Councilmember DiGiovanni, when you say revisit, what exactly do you mean? You mean?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Probably like if, of course, we had to my colleagues, like we approve everything else, we take this, and then once everything maybe improves in our hospital or the conditions of some of the litigation moves along, let's see with the AG, talk to the Department of Justice itself, clarify a lot of different things, and then have the hospital going or whatever satisfied, and then we can revisit their request for the 4 parcels.
You mean after the rezoning's already occurred?
Pardon?
After the rezoning has already occurred? No.
Oh, no, not after rezoning there, including everything except for their rezoning of the 4 parcels tonight, and then maybe visit their 4 parcels at some other point.
No, those rezonings are part and parcel of the housing element and are required for its certification by the end of the
Okay,
year.
so
yes.
we are not allowed to pull this out tonight to make a motion to approve everything else except for this particular ordinance.
Well, that's correct.
Okay,
Right.
so we're not allowed to
I
do
mean, you can
that.
make a motion on it, but it would require,
Oh,
of course.
okay, but if you're not allowed to do it,
Yeah,
that's
but
why
it's
I'm
not,
asking. Yeah, I appreciate you being, and everybody, thank you for the clarification. And
If I may, through the chair, Councilmember DeGiovanni,
Go ahead, City Attorney, go ahead.
I guess the real answer is it's not that it's not allowed, it won't help the housing element. If you were to take out this particular areas for zoning, then there really would not be a housing element.
That's right.
Oh,
We wouldn't receive our certification letter from the state by the end of the year.
okay, and then because frankly, and then I know there's laws and everything, these seems to be, I guess I said it last, unintended consequences of the state laws. Because I really don't think our legislators, if they knew that we were in a quandrum of health care and struggling with our health care, I think that laws are made to have not just exceptions, but just letter of the law or interpretation of the law. And I don't think they've been able to hear us yet. And to let them know we are yelling about our health care. We don't have health care, and I think they would support our health care, and then we could figure it out somehow with them, with our legislators. But that's why I was asking if we could do a motion like that.
Right. I think one of the answers to this is that this is somewhat of just a land use decision. There's the aspect of AHMC, how they're running the hospital, and then there's an aspect of rezoning some properties for additional housing opportunities. That's simply the way the housing element sees it. The wellness village, the presentation that AHMC gave you, is a beneficial thing. At least it seems to staff, to the hospital, but a question's been asked about whether you can tie the two together, that having the development, if it benefits the hospital. It seems like it would.
We can't
One of the things that the housing elements, its primary concern is providing additional housing
So
opportunities.
is HCD aware of the current litigation of AHMC and the AG?
We do not know if they're aware or not.
Yeah, because I think that they should be alert on that particular time as well, because we cannot, like you said, we cannot do anything to ensure that those revenues go back into the hospital. We cannot ensure that, with Councilmember Perano was asking if we could guarantee that that would be the particular thing. So after this leaves, then that's it. So my thing is that, for me, is wellness, hospital, and then we move on, whatever we do. And I do think that our legislators, that the ones that I know, would work with us and try to figure it out, because this is it. This is our community health, and then this is all we have. So this is about saving lives.
Certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Again, this rezoning doesn't affect
Right.
the hospital itself.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Can you repeat what you said, because they were talking something about the hospital?
About the
Said something, it doesn't affect the hospital?
the rezonings that are being considered by the city council do not affect the parcel that contains the hospital. That's on its own parcel. Hospital operations are, as far as we can tell, unaffected by these rezonings. A number of issues have been brought up about what seems to us to be hospital operations, and those are really, at least in staff's view, unaffected by the rezonings that are occurring. They may, in some people's minds, be tied together, but the city's acting within its police power to rezone properties in compliance with California law for having a housing element, providing additional opportunities for residents, and that's why we've made the recommendation that we have to you.
One other question I have is, there's the main hospital and then the medical building. That is remaining hospital use.
That's correct. None of the existing buildings are being rezoned to anything other. They would remain HOSP zoning. Medical Center, Seton Hospital itself.
I like that one wasn't, I didn't get clarity on that earlier. I know that the main hub was there, but I wanted to make sure that also the medical offices remained as hospital use.
That's correct.
Okay,
They will.
thank you. Councilmember Perano.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm sorry, I'm swinging back to the conditional zoning, because I had it looked up, and it is possible. I know that you're worried about having a glitch and slowing down the process, but I think it would make it easier, especially for us to be able to make to move forward in that, as you can hear, our concern is about the hospital. Our concern is about the staff. I would say on a side note, I'm not telling you how to run your business, but if I had a business and I wasn't paying my workers for 2.5 months, it'd be hard to keep them. So I'm concerned to hear that. I just respectfully mention that what I'm hearing is a concern.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just on
Yes,
that,
sir.
that comment alone, just to know.
Yes, sir.
The emergency room physicians we subcontract with a company called NES that's gone bankrupt. They cover 30 hospitals. We actually have paid them through October. They didn't pay our physicians, but we paid them. So just to that comment, just to be clear.
Sure. I appreciate
But
the
and since then, we've actually guaranteed our physicians to pay them going forward. So
That's good to hear.
Yeah, just so you know.
That's good to hear. And I appreciate you coming up and saying that because we all heard that. And so it's good that you.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, it's good because when we didn't hear and we're hearing what they're saying. So I appreciate you making that comment. So conditional zoning.
Yeah, so conditional zoning is kind of tricky. I mean, normally a developer would present a development project and it would be before the city council to essentially grant a rezoning of it. And along with that, usually there are conditions of approval. This is very different. The city's certifying its housing element. The state requires, because of the 1,600 unit shortfall, that we rezone certain properties with very minimal strings attached. They require that we, in fact, not only change the zoning of certain properties, but that we increase the heights and the densities allowed within those zoning districts and general plan designations. And again, very few strings attached, if any. It's something that the state wants a pathway cleared for development, and we're in a situation where we have very little land left. And we have very few sites to work with, and these sites happen to sort of fall in our lap. Councilmember Sylvester sort of brought this up in his line of questioning to AHMC about the timing. These sites sort of did come to us at a time when we really needed to have some development sites. The Serramonte Del Rey redevelopment project, or redevelopment of the high school, also helped. That actually allowed us to serve 23% of our arena right there with that approval. And so some things happened that kind of brought our housing element together, and we could actually write a housing element that would get us past that 4,800 unit arena. And it's been definitely an arduous road to get to where we are tonight, for sure.
Oh, and so may I, the last question for you two gentlemen. I guess the only other thing I would stress, thank you for coming back up, is the need for communication. I think I mentioned this at the beginning of my beginning comments. Communication with the staff, communication with the labor staff, communication with the needs of the facility, and the working for the best of Seton Medical Center so that we have a continued service with the community. I think that's dire.
Yeah, and I thank you for that comment, council member. You know, we don't just want to comply, we want to thrive. I will tell you that. And the only way to do that, again, as I said in my slides, and I was not here 5 years ago, but is through partnership. It takes all of us, the physicians, the employees, the leadership, and the staff. And the communication that you're talking about is amongst all of us and have one driven plan. If you see hospitals and healthcare institutions that survive, forget survive, they thrive, it's because they're working together. And I think way before HMCs come in, that's been a challenge for this in our community. Again, we believe we're stewards of this. We believe that we are cognizant of the fact that the community owns this facility. And we want to do the right thing, and we want to comply, and we will, and you will see that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Prano. Councilmember Sylvester.
I thank you for the opportunity to give my final comments before voting on this. There was a couple of points that came up, and one thing that stuck to my mind, which answered primarily as to what's going on here. We are under a mandate. We have waited, and now we are in a case of urgency. And after tonight, there's no kicking the can down the road. You've heard from the city attorney as to the penalties and fines that can be imposed if we don't have a certified housing element tonight. I want to reiterate, if we don't approve a housing element tonight, what will Daly City lose? And I believe we asked Mr. Chu that and Mr. Lunkhausen at the last meeting. Anywhere in the neighborhood of $2 to $3 million for infrastructure that we need in Daly City, such as I would think the provisions under SB 1, slurry seal on the roads, and other infrastructure changes. Another term came up. If we don't have a housing element plan, besides the penalties and the money we're going to lose, there's something called the builder's remedy. Can somebody explain, is it Mr. Chu or Mr. Lonkhausen or the city attorney, what builder's remedy means?
I can reiterate, council member, thank you. The builder's remedy is a penalty if you don't have a certified housing element, which essentially means if you were to maintain the current zoning and you were to have a developer come forward with an application, which we already do have an application in place, they can build despite the zoning. And that would be imposed upon by the developer or the court.
Thank you very much, Madam City Attorney. A word came up tonight, and Mr. Lunkhausen, thank you for bringing it up, because I was looking for the right word or phrase, and that's hospital operations. Hospital operations is not on the table tonight. As with our city manager, for instance, who I really respect, I don't get involved with the operations. Our city manager is the one who does the operations for this city. And we should not meddle in hospital operations. Now, don't get me wrong, and this is to AHMC and AGI. A happy working employee is a good working employee. Based upon what I've heard this evening, employees are not happy. It would behoove you to work with the employees and, oh, well, how can we make this better? But I'm also aware of the term, stop the bleeding. And that's what we have here. It is better to have a piece of the pie than no pie at all. And I have empathy for the employees that have showed up this evening, but I'm sorry. We have a tough decision to make. And I'm not beholden to anyone. I want to do the right thing for our city. So part of hospital operations that I made mention before, I don't believe in getting involved in hospital operations at all. And what we're trying to do is stitch something into the fabric of this plan, which I obtained a quote tonight, revenue allocation. We can't force AHMC or AGI to say X amount of money is going to be brought in to bring back services. That is not within our purview to do that. Asset purchase agreement. We received an opinion by letter and also tonight from the city attorney that this council can move ahead. It does not apply to hospital operations, what the employees are going through, but basically land use and rezoning. You've heard it here this evening. zoning allocation of parcels. It is too late. We have submitted the housing element plan, and now we are at the 11th hour. So I leave you with this: state funding loss, builder's remedy to which we'll have no control. We have no guarantee that if AGI builds, we have no guarantee as to the future of Seton Hospital if it will continue to thrive. There is no guarantee. There is no guarantee that if they do build, will Seton Hospital thrive. So with that being said, I'm going to close and say, I think the decision is clear. We have to do what's best for our city. We care about the employees and the folks that work in the city. But if you put strings to tighten and put someone into the corner, you know what's going to happen. They're going to come out fighting. So we have to make the correct decision this evening. This is an urgency ordinance. Thank you, Madam Mayor. My comments.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Sylvester. Any other comments from my colleagues? Vice Mayor, you have the floor.
I'm not going to reiterate everything that's already been said on the dais, because I think we all have like a responsibility for this community and this city, and this is not a hard. This is a very, very difficult decision to make. If I had to take a drone-like perspective on all this, ultimately the system is broken. We have the intersections of the need for housing. We have the intersections of access to healthcare. And we also have the intersections of providing work, dignified work, to the workers of healthcare. And I really empathize with you all, coming from a family of doctors and nurses, and generations before me and after me that are in the healthcare field. Just like what my colleague, Councilmember Sylvester said, you know, we've been kicking the can down the road. This was on October 14th, October 28th, and now we're at this juncture. And just hearing all the information from our city attorney and what is in front of us, it's almost kind of a rock and a hard place, because I believe you all. You know, you don't have to like, and I believe that, you know, we need to provide dignified work for dignified people and have and listen. But there's just so much to lose as a city in terms of funding, pending litigation, the builder's remedy. And I don't think there's a magic bullet to fix everything. But what we do have is a lot of time. And I know that sometimes our decisions has the potential to hopefully mend some bridges, and that's my hope. But knowing that the parameters and understanding what this policy is about, there's just too much for the city to lose in terms of the litigation and the housing element. And, you know, I just want to say thank you for everybody that came here and shared their voices and their perspectives.
Mayor, just one more comment.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Councilmember DeGiovanni.
So I'll make this short. So just to let the council know, back in history, when they were faced with litigation from it's a different example, the NRA, we shut down the gun store. And they were threatened with litigation, lawsuits, and everything else. But they stood up. And they stood up against the NRA, and they voted to shut down that gun store because they had the courage for their community to know what was better for the community. So I'm not going to be holding, and then everybody has a different perspective, and I respect my colleagues, but we cannot be holding if the powers that be knew that we were here tonight having to even consider picking a baby and splitting the baby in half of health care for our community and workers and all that, I think they would understand. And I can't even imagine our Attorney General, because he is so supportive of health care and quality health care in our whole state. So sometimes you have to go against the grain. This is an unintended consequence of the legislation that was given. It was not done on purpose to punish us, but we are unique in this situation. And just like the council before, when they stood up and closed that gun store, knowing that there were going to be lawsuits, but they did it. They did it, they overcame it, and then it was made our community safer. So I say we have the courage to stand up. We say, and then to the Vice President, I know that I appreciate you being here, and then wondered why none of those parcels you wanted to save to expand healthcare. There's no mindset about expanding healthcare in these plans and giving us a big facility and maybe a maternity ward. That hurts. That hurts our community who wants to be community partners. It's in a community, a diverse community. A majority are Filipino community, they walk to that hospital. So that really hurts. So I say stand up, have courage, talk to our legislators. I think that if they knew that this was affecting our healthcare workers and our community as far as life and death, and them needing resources, sheets, pillows, towels, whatever they needed, they don't have. And the actors that are before you are the same actors from before. And that hurts because we came in with good faith with AHMC. We really wanted everything to work. So did the doctors. And doesn't look like it's going that way. Our healthcare, it's a life or death situation with having that hospital and for expanding care and in case there's an emergency. That place needs to be restored, and it needs to be restored to the maximum, not just the minimum, and not to have a year where the AG is going to extend it, and then what's going to happen? Maybe you guys already have a plan about our hospital, but we will fight for our lives because it does affect lives. It really, truly does. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
No price on it.
Councilmember
Thank you.
DiGiovanni. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to everyone again. I think Vice Mayor alluded that we've had meetings continuously on this item. For those of you in the audience, thank you for being here and speaking. I think it goes without saying that my colleagues here care about the hospital, Seton Hospital, and many times over have really advocated for it to remain in our community. The land use to date will remain hospital with a plan today. And I asked very clearly around the medical building, because at one point I also heard from community members and their worry about that medical building becoming something else. But it was clear today that it is going to remain hospital use. You know, we have been sued, actually, for not having our housing element. And we are way past the deadline for being in compliance. The penalties could be up to $100,000 a month. $100,000 a month. Meaning if we were to look at 2 months, that could actually be dollars that could be going to our public safety. That if you look at it, the amount of dollars could be going to our firefighters, our police officers, something that we know greatly. You multiply $100,000 times 6 months, a year, then we're gonna go into $1 million. I mean, these are the penalties that we're looking at hand. And this would be coming out of our general fund. You know, we have duties as this is not obviously an easy decision and hearing from all of you, but we have a duty as a whole to our city. And when we don't have revenue streams that are large, like a biotech, we also need to look at ways to preserve and ensure that we don't bleed $100,000 a month. A loss of $2.3 million for our infrastructure. $2.3 million is a lot of money. I say this to AHMC and to those that are listening here in the audience that are part of that corporation, that are part of that entity. Please work with the workers that are here. They are the ones on the front lines serving community members. They are the ones that are providing care day in and day out. And I don't want to be here in another meeting having to hear that our workers are not being taken care of, that the workers that serve our community are not being taken care of. And that's something I am asking directly as partners, as if you are a partner here in our community that wants to see this hospital thrive, then you have to listen to the workers that are talking to you and are there in the front lines. But as I said, this decision isn't easy, but I have to look at how $100,000 is not a small amount of money. If you listen to our meetings, sometimes we are ecstatic when we have grants from the Daly City Public Library Associates with $15,000, with $20,000 that go to our library. And when Council Member Sylvester brought up the builder's remedy, that if we don't approve this plan, this development could still happen through the builder's remedy, but yet as a city, we wouldn't have the design controls that we have implemented right here today with this document. So there's so many pieces on here that showing, we need to move towards this because of the fact that this is also a courageous move today. A courageous move to make sure that our city has dollars around infrastructure. Our city has dollars to ensure that we have public safety and ensuring that we don't bleed $100,000 a month. This is about being able to be responsible stewards with our general fund. And I think that it's, we've pushed this over. I also was one that said, let's move this to the next meeting so we can hear directly from the concerns that was presented. And so with that, I want to thank everyone. We're going to be moving into making a vote, and I'd like to ask our city attorney in regards to this urgency resolution and how this would go about in regards to the urgency, because I know there's multiple.
That's correct. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through the chair, there are 4 urgency ordinances and 1 resolution to be adopted. By way of efficiency, if there is a motion, once a motion is made, I can go through the chair and cite each one of those resolutions, and a motion can be made for all the ordinances rather than have a vote for each one.
Okay.
And with regards to the resolution would come before the council after the ordinances. And that also will you could just make a motion for the resolution. Resolution is for a simple majority. The urgency would require 4/5 vote of the council.
Okay, thank you very much. And so with that, I'm a motion to approve this item, this housing element. And do I have a second?
Glenn Sylvester, second.
Okay.
This is for the resolution.
Procedurally, okay.
Yes.
Madam City Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Ms. DiGiovanni,
I choose lives, have courage, and choose our community lives. So my answer is no,
Dr. Rod,
but I support the community.
Aye.
Ms. Perano,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester,
Glenn Sylvester, aye.
Ms. Manalo.
Aye, thank you very much.
With regards to the ordinances, we would like to hear a motion. Through the chair, I will repeat the ordinances. This is to adopt urgency ordinances approving zone change Z3824166607, amending the Daly City zoning ordinance and zoning map related to the following. Amending the development regulations for planned development PD 57B at 525 Ceremony Boulevard. Amending development regulations at 641 Mission. Rezoning certain parcels at 1900 Sullivan and 1500 Southgate Avenue from Sullivan Corridor Hospital, SC Hospital to Sullivan Corridor High Density. Amending chapters 17.04, 17.08, 17.09, 17.12, 17.21, 17.45, and 17.58, amending various development regulations, including in the R3 multiple family district, and adding chapter 17.60, airport land use compatibility. And this is through the chair by way of a motion.
Okay, may we have roll call, please, Madam City Clerk?
Actually, we would need to have a motion on this.
Okay. All right.
A motion to, through the chair, it would be a motion to adopt the urgency ordinances as read.
Motion to adopt urgency ordinance. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second.
Ms. DiGiovanni,
Everything but the Seton. So I guess it has to be a no.
Dr. Rod,
Aye.
Ms. Perano,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester,
Glenn Sylvester, aye.
Ms. Manalo.
Aye.
Thank you. Urgency passes.
Thank you very much, Attorney Zimmerman. I want to thank the staff, and I want to thank everyone that was with us in this meeting. We are now moving on to our next portion of our agenda. Thank you very much. We are at item appointments of board and commissions, membership of committee appointments. Do my colleagues have any appointments at this time?
I have none.
Okay, seeing none for my colleagues, we are now moving on to council committee reports. Are there any other council committee reports at this time from my colleagues?
No reports for me.
Reports, I think, let me pull up my document. One moment. Okay. For city council report or council committee reports, in this regard, I'd like to create 2 ad hoc committee meetings or ad hoc committees. The first ad hoc committee I'd like to, for the record, create is ad hoc committee for the land acknowledgement. I'd like to appoint Vice Mayor Das Magboal and myself to that committee to work on creating a land acknowledgement for honoring the native peoples of this land. The second ad hoc committee I'd like to create is in regards to the creation of a women's commission. I'd like to appoint Council Member Prano and I on this commission, on this, not commission, on this ad hoc committee. Thank you very much. So that's what I have for council committee reports. Moving on to city council. I'd like to share that it's been very, very busy. You know, at the cusp of our last meeting, I want to acknowledge City Manager Tom Piccolotti for really taking the leadership on the Italian flag raising ceremony and having Vice Consul Vitalva Gamica and Vice President Board of Supervisors David Canepa there to celebrate the inaugural Italian flag raising ceremony. I just want to acknowledge you for that leadership. I was able to join BART, if you can, for its 52 years, has actually never had a Filipino American History Month celebration. And so I was deeply honored to be a panelist with BART and their Filipino American History Month celebration. I want to share that with the community members that are watching. It was so joyful to see the staff come in their Halloween camaraderie and costumes. There was so much joy at City Hall, seeing everyone compete in their costumes, and I just want to say that it was definitely wonderful to see during Halloween. And then I also was at Ceremony Mall with Supervisor David Canepa, you know, just being able to be in community, passing out candy to the children and the youth. So creative, all the costumes out there. And then we also had the Autumn Fest Dolger Senior Center Pancake Breakfast. Big kudos to our firefighters who were cooking and really with the recipe of our dear Opal, but also to our Daly City Police Department who was doing all of the drinks that day. And also DCPLA's Art and Lit Festival, which was really wonderful to see all of the young artists, creatives from all areas, from DJing to writing to music to dance. It was really wonderful. And then when there was the Passion of Profit Conference at Cow Palace, convening businesses and entrepreneurs, which was really amazing to hear how also AI has come into play and how businesses have to be very mindful of that. Also, our Veterans Day celebration, honoring all veterans. During that occasion, I want to thank staff and also our city manager, Tom Piccolotti. We had a special guest there, a resident who was 100 years old. 100 years old and 8 months. Pete, he's a Filipino World War II veteran who survived the Bataan Death March. And so for him, being able to celebrate is really amazing as a centennial. And then on November 24th, I look forward to the Fire versus Police or Police versus Fire basketball game at 11 a.m. at War Memorial. Looking forward to see that. But I want to just thank the staff and everyone has continuously put effort in all of the events that we put on for our residents. I hear from them when I'm out there in the community, and they are really thankful for having the opportunity to be in community to combat loneliness. And really, without all of the amazing staff of all of the directors and staff, it wouldn't be possible. So once again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Any city council reports? Okay. Seeing none, moving on to staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one thing, the mayoral walk.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Yes, there was a mayoral walk. Thank you so much. So in collaboration with our Daly City Colma Chamber of Commerce. We held our annual mayoral walk, and we did it at Ceremony. That's why I forgot. It was the very same time as Art and Lit Fest. And, I took a break from that, and we were able to take a tour of Crunch Fitness, which was really amazing to learn about their business. And then after that, we moved over to Dave and Buster's, which has really been wonderful to hear their successes there. And then after Dave and Buster's, we moved over to Seba Eyebrow. So if you want waxing or eyebrow threading, Ziba Eyebrow, we stepped over there to that small business. And then lastly, we were able to tour Jakalchi, which is going to be a really amazing place where there'll be Korean groceries, but also a Michelin star chef that is being brought over from Korea. And then also there will be a sushi bar, and also an opportunity to buy gluten-free pastries. That is some of their delicacies. But it's really exciting. I mean, it's not necessarily all there yet, but to see the shell of it. Can you imagine a refrigerator that is dedicated to kimchi? So, and so they're literally, I mean, there's so much uniqueness and really thought to this location, and is really going to be a highlight in the region, and not only in Daly City, but really bringing forth what I know we've been talking about for a long time, that Daly City is not only a pass-through, we're not only the gateway through the peninsula, but we are a destination. So a lot of people are looking forward to that. What I hear is the anticipated timeline for that is at the end of February, for those that may be wondering. But thank you so much. I want to thank the Chamber, Daly City Chamber, for being there, for also Marie, who's the marketing director of Ceremony. And I also want to thank our city manager, Tom, as well as Maybell Manio, who was there to join me on the walk, and the new president of the Daly City Colma Chamber of Commerce, Tom Norris. And you won't even believe it, his furry family friend. He brought his dog. What kind of dog was that? It's a golden retriever. Also took the tour. But thank you for reminding me of that. It was really wonderful to just hear from businesses and work with the chamber. Thank you. Do you have any?
I don't have any other report.
I appreciate the reminder. There's so many things. So at this time, I'd like to adjourn in memory, but staff has not given me any adjourn in memories for this meeting. So I'd like to go ahead. Councilmember Prano.
Thank you very much. It's like a life story, but it's brief. So Manuel and Stella Lopez were residents of Daly City and parents of our own Sandy Arnott. She is the San Mateo County tax collector. Now, Manuel and Stella, passed away almost 1 year apart to the date. Manuel on October 6th, 2023, and Stella on October 3rd. They were married for over 77 years, and they lived a full life filled with love and happiness and lots of laughter. They were an adorable, loving couple and caring parents and grandparents and friends to many. But ever since the day her loving husband Manuel died, Stella would say, "We were supposed to go together." The photos Sandy posted of her parents holding hands, that's one of my favorite when I saw what Sandy had posted on Facebook. And you see them sitting on the sofa holding hands, and I thought, oh, that's so cute, you know? And her parents, were very loving to each other and their family, and they enjoyed their company as well as, the family. So it was very heartwarming. On October 3rd, 2024, Stella's loving husband, Manuel, came and took Stella home to be with him in heaven. So, on behalf of all of us, we'd like to send our heartfelt condolences to the entire Lopez and Arnott family for their loss.
Thank you. May we all have a moment of silence.